You do something, you take ozone shots? Some of this, Nick, sounds a little...
It is. That's one of the underground therapies.
What do you do when you've got nowhere else to go?
Saved my life, you could say.
Ozone is the most important drug in the world.
I was dying then. You know, I need it now.
This is lunatic medicine.
My patients very much need ozone.
International medical studies suggest a major breakthrough. Yet American government officials and the media have condemned it as medical fraud. How has opinion become so divided over such a simple medical treatment? Ozone is well known as the protective layer surrounding the Earth, which absorbs the harmful ultraviolet rays of the sun. It is formed when electric or ultraviolet energy reacts with oxygen molecules typically made of two atoms, causing them to temporarily recombine into groups of three. The new molecule is called ozone. Unstable and quick to react with other substances, oxygen's traditional properties are suddenly more powerful.
Ozone acts as a sort of super oxygen in a way. It's sort of electrified oxygen. It carries negative ions on it, and it's a very potent oxidizing agent, sort of like bleach, you know, like Clorox, really. And that's why people are afraid of it. You know, they feel that it's going to bleach out all your vessels. And quite obviously, if you put too much in, it will.
By the early 1900s, a handful of European cities had beaten epidemics like typhoid fever by ozonating their drinking water. Today, more than 3,000 cities and towns around the world, including Moscow, Montreal, and Los Angeles, bubble ozone through their water supplies, oxidizing particulates, killing all bacteria and viruses, and leaving the water disinfected and safe to drink.
Number one, there's ignorance. I think that it almost immediately gets dismissed by any serious physician or scientist as soon as they hear the word.
Frank Schallenberger has trained hundreds of therapists in North America how to use ozone.
As soon as they hear it's ozone, they're immediately prejudiced because of the alleged toxicity of ozone. But the other thing is, they know ozone is a free radical inducing treatment, and it makes zero sense to them. It seems like total bunk to them. And so they don't even look into it.
I was shocked to discover that people travel to various clinics in Germany from South America, from various parts of the United States, Canada, I mean virtually all over the world, and paying between $2,000 and $3,000 cash on the table American for 6 treatments. And then the list of clinical indications were just far-reaching. I mean, they just included almost everything. They have liver disease, peripheral vascular disease.
Whenever you have a disease, ischemic areas, for instance, in your brain, there's a lack of oxygen. And oxygen is very vital. And you can bring in some metabolism into the brain again, and you can heal, for instance, a brain stroke if you get the patient in the first 48 hours. In this patient here, that was 1 stroke, a 2nd stroke, and the patient had a 3rd stroke. That small spot here is the 3rd stroke. The first and the second one was treated in the hospital without ozone, and that one was treated at home with ozone. And you can see that the scar is a small one. And since the scars are that small, after brain stroke, the patients are not paralyzed. I can give you the table of brain strokes in the United States from 71 and from 90. So in 90, 750,000 brain strokes, 250,000 persons died, and 16% are so disabled that they need total care around the clock.
And ozone will help them?
I can count it up from 40 patients, but in 40 patients, nobody was dying, nobody is disabled, and only 2 are so disabled that they have basic movement only.
This 1997 study shows that the effects of some drugs are made more effective when combined with ozone.
We can take 50% of the amount of drugs we normally use, plus ozone, and then it works in the same way, but we don't have the side effects of drugs. For instance, loss of hair, vomiting. dizziness and so on.
German doctors were the first to use ozone medically during World War I to sterilize battle wounds. But it wasn't until 1959 that Dr. Joachim Hansler developed the first popular ozone machine for medicine. Today, his daughter, Renata Wiebahn, a PhD biochemist, carries on his legacy. Dr. Wiebahn has also written the definitive clinical reference book on the subject, addressing the science behind the treatment and listing specific dosages for more than 22 areas of medicine. Ozone is applied in various ways. The main method is known as autohemotherapy, where small amounts of blood are exposed to ozone oxygen and then re-injected into the body. Other methods include rectal and vaginal insufflation, external bagging for burns, wounds, and ulcers, and more recently, the use of an ozone sauna. A growing number of dentists now use ozone to treat cavities and to flush the mouth with ozonated water during surgery, lowering the risk of infection. The most controversial